I am sitting here staring at my phone, looking at the wedding photo I just sent to my family 2 hours ago. The image shows me in a simple white dress, beaming next to the man I actually love, not the one they tried to force me to marry. My mother called screaming 30 minutes after I hit send. My father has not spoken to me since. But you know what? Looking at this picture of pure happiness, I have zero regrets about choosing love over family pressure. Before I tell you how I got here, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe for more real stories about standing up for yourself. Trust me, you will want to hear how this all started. Growing up in a traditional Italian-American family in Portland, Oregon, I always knew certain expectations came with the territory. My father, Anthony, built his construction business from nothing, working 16-hour days to give us the life he never had. My mother, Maria, worked part-time at a dental office, but spent most of her energy making sure our house felt like something straight out of a cooking show. My younger brother, David, 22, and studying engineering could do no wrong in their eyes. He was the golden child who would carry on the family name and traditions. The Rosetti family had been close to ours for 2 generations. My father and Frank Rosetti started their businesses around the same time and supported each other through every challenge. Our families spent holidays together, went on camping trips, and shared every major milestone. Frank's wife, Patricia, and my mother became best friends, planning elaborate dinner parties and organizing community events together. This close relationship meant both families shared similar values about keeping traditions alive and marrying within the community. They believed strongly that marriage should bring families together, not just individuals. Growing up, I heard countless stories about arranged marriages in the old country that led to lasting happiness. My parents never directly said they expected me to marry within their circle, but the message was always there, lurking beneath every family conversation about my future. Everything changed when I met Jake at the marketing company where I worked as a creative coordinator. It was a random Tuesday morning when the elevator got stuck between the 3rd and 4th floors. Jake, a software engineer visiting our office for a consultation, helped me pick up the client files that scattered across the floor when the elevator jerked to a stop. We spent 20 minutes talking while waiting for maintenance, and I felt something I had never experienced before. He listened when I talked about my dream of starting my own marketing agency. He asked thoughtful questions about my ideas instead of just nodding politely. Our relationship developed slowly over 3 months. We started with lunch meetings in the company cafeteria, talking about everything from work projects to childhood memories. Jake grew up in a small town in Washington state, raised by his grandmother after his parents died in a car accident when he was 12. He understood family loyalty, but also believed in individual freedom. Our weekend dates felt natural and comfortable. We hiked Mount Hood, explored Portland's food truck scene, and spent hours in bookstores discussing our favorite authors. Jake proposed after 6 months of dating, not with a flashy restaurant scene, but during a quiet moment on my apartment balcony. He said he wanted to build a life where we both felt free to pursue our dreams while supporting each other completely. When I said yes, I meant it with every fiber of my being. This was the partner I wanted for life, someone who saw my potential and encouraged my ambitions instead of trying to mold me into someone else's vision. But I had not told my family about Jake yet. Every time I thought about bringing him to Sunday dinner, something held me back. Maybe it was the way my mother talked about the importance of finding a nice Italian boy, or how my father always emphasized that family connections matter more than individual feelings. I kept waiting for the right moment, but that moment never seemed to arrive. The pressure started subtly when my mother began mentioning Marco Rosetti during our weekly phone calls. Marco had just finished law school at Harvard and moved back to Portland to join a prestigious firm downtown. She would casually drop details about his success, his good looks, and how wonderful it would be if our families became even closer. My father joined these conversations, praising Marco's business sense and ambition. They painted a picture of the perfect son-in-law without ever directly suggesting I should be interested. The hints became harder to ignore when both families arranged a dinner at Giovanni's, an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. They presented it as a casual gathering to celebrate Marco's return, but I could see the matchmaking intentions clearly. My parents spent extra time choosing my outfit and styling my hair. My mother kept reminding me to be charming and ask Marco about his career plans. Marco arrived looking polished and confident in an expensive suit. He had the kind of classic Italian features my grandmother would have called handsome, but his personality left me completely cold. Throughout dinner, he dominated every conversation, talking exclusively about his achievements at law school, the important cases he planned to handle, and the lifestyle he intended to maintain. When I tried to share my own career goals, he interrupted with advice about how I should think bigger and more practically about my future. The worst part was how he spoke about his expectations for a future wife. He outlined detailed plans for the kind of home he wanted, the social circle we would join, and even how many children we should have. He never once asked what I wanted or whether I shared his vision. I felt like a business acquisition he was evaluating, not a person he wanted to get to know. The complete absence of chemistry made the evening feel endless. By the time we said goodbye, I knew I had to tell my family about Jake. I could not let them continue planning my life around someone who saw me as an accessory to his success. Jake deserved better than being kept secret, and I deserved the right to choose my own partner. The conversation would be difficult, but putting it off any longer felt like betraying both Jake and myself. I decided to tell my family about Jake during our regular Sunday dinner, the week after the disastrous evening with Marco. I had rehearsed the conversation dozens of times, but nothing could have prepared me for their reaction. When I announced that I was already in a serious relationship with someone I planned to marry, my mother dropped her fork with a loud clatter against her plate. My father's face turned purple with anger, and David stared at me like I had just confessed to a crime. The explosion was immediate and devastating. My mother started crying, asking how I could throw away my future for some stranger they had never met. She accused me of being selfish and ungrateful after everything they had sacrificed to give me opportunities. My father was even more direct, demanding to know why Jake was not Italian and how he could possibly understand our family values. He questioned Jake's intentions, his financial stability, and whether he truly cared about me or just wanted to take advantage of our family's success. I tried to defend Jake by explaining his stable career, his kindness, and how much he respected my dreams and ambitions. I told them about his tragic childhood and how he had built a successful life despite facing challenges they could never imagine. But nothing I said made any difference. They refused to consider meeting him or giving him a chance to prove himself worthy of their approval. The ultimatum was clear from that first conversation. I could choose Jake, or I could choose family, but I could not have both. They demanded I end the relationship immediately and focus on building something meaningful with Marco. When I refused, they launched a campaign designed to wear down my resistance and force me back into line. My mother mastered the art of emotional manipulation, calling me multiple times each day, with tears and dramatic declarations about how I was breaking her heart. She talked about all the sacrifices she and my father had made to give me a good life, and how I was repaying them with betrayal and disappointment. She painted vivid pictures of the lonely future I would face without family support, warning me that Jake would eventually leave me for someone whose family welcomed him. My father took a different approach, focusing on practical threats that hit closer to home. He made it clear that continuing my relationship with Jake meant forfeiting any claim to the family business or inheritance. He had always talked about leaving me part of the construction company, and now that security disappeared overnight. He also implied that he would use his connections in the local business community to make things difficult for my marketing career if I insisted on this path. The extended family joined the pressure campaign with coordinated phone calls from aunts, uncles, and cousins. Each conversation followed the same script about family loyalty, tradition, and the importance of making choices that honored our heritage. They shared stories about relatives who had married outside the community and faced years of struggle and regret. The message was always the same: I was making a terrible mistake that would haunt me for the rest of my life. Meanwhile, the Rosetti family had been informed about my rebellion, creating additional pressure from the broader community. Frank Rosetti called my father multiple times, expressing disappointment about my lack of respect for their friendship and the opportunity they were offering. Patricia started spreading subtle gossip about my ingratitude and poor judgment, ensuring that everyone in our social circle knew about the situation. Marco's behavior became increasingly problematic as he refused to accept my rejection. He started following my social media accounts obsessively, liking old photos, and leaving comments that made my friends uncomfortable. He began showing up at my workplace, uninvited, claiming he needed to speak with me about important matters. When I told him directly that I was not interested and asked him to stop contacting me, he accused me of being confused and needing time to think clearly about what was best for my future. The stress was overwhelming, affecting my sleep, my work performance, and my relationship with Jake. I felt guilty for putting him through this drama, but he remained incredibly supportive throughout the ordeal. He never pressured me to choose him over my family, but he also made it clear that he would not compromise his integrity or our relationship to win their approval. His strength gave me the courage to keep fighting for what I knew was right. The situation reached a breaking point when my parents took action without consulting me. They arranged an engagement party and sent invitations to the entire extended family and community. They booked the same restaurant where we had met Marco and ordered flowers, decorations, and catering for 50 guests. They even hired a photographer to capture what they assumed would be a magical moment when Marco proposed. The evening of the party, I refused to attend. I knew that showing up would be seen as acceptance, and I could not fake enthusiasm for a relationship that felt wrong in every way. Marco went through with his proposal anyway, getting down on one knee in front of all the guests while I was at home with Jake watching a movie and pretending the whole thing was not happening. The public humiliation of my absence sent Marco into a rage that surprised even my parents. He accused them of failing to control me properly and demanded that they force me to honor the commitment he believed we had made. The scene at the restaurant became uncomfortable for everyone involved, with guests asking questions my parents could not answer, and Marco making increasingly angry demands about my behavior. The next morning, my father delivered the final ultimatum with cold fury I had never seen before. He told me I had 1 week to end my relationship with Jake and apologize to Marco publicly, or I would be completely cut off from the family. No more Sunday dinners, no more holiday celebrations, no more financial or emotional support. I would become a stranger who happened to share their last name. That conversation with my father made everything crystal clear. Jake and I had been talking about marriage for months, but the family crisis forced us to make our decision immediately. He suggested we elope, pointing out that we did not need anyone's permission or approval to build the life we wanted together. We spent the entire night researching options and making plans for a wedding that would be completely ours. We chose a small chapel in Seattle for our wedding, partly because Washington State had a shorter waiting period, and partly because we wanted to start our new life in a place that held no memories of family drama. The venue was perfect, intimate enough for just the two of us and the witnesses we brought along. Jake's colleague Ryan agreed to stand up for him, and my best friend Jessica drove up from Portland to be my witness and photographer. I found my wedding dress at a boutique in Seattle's Pike Place Market the day before the ceremony. It was simple and elegant, nothing like the elaborate gown my mother had always described for my future wedding, but it felt absolutely perfect for this moment. Jake wore a navy suit that brought out his eyes, and when I saw him waiting at the altar, every doubt about our decision disappeared completely. We wrote our own vows, promising to support each other's dreams and face whatever challenges came our way as a team. When Jake said he would always encourage me to be my authentic self instead of trying to change me, I started crying happy tears that ruined my makeup. When I promised to build a life where we both felt free to grow and pursue our passions, he squeezed my hand so tight I could feel his excitement about our future together. The moment we said "I do" felt like stepping into bright sunlight after months of living in shadows. Jessica captured everything with her camera, getting shots of us, laughing during the ceremony, kissing as newlyweds, and walking hand in hand out of the chapel into our new life. We celebrated with lunch at a waterfront restaurant, toasting with champagne while watching ferries cross Puget Sound and feeling grateful for the courage to choose love over fear. The happiness was mixed with sadness about missing my family, but I knew We had made the only choice that would allow us to build something real and lasting together. Looking at the photos Jessica took, I could see the difference in my face compared to pictures from the dinner with Marco. This was what genuine joy looked like, what it felt like to marry someone who loved me for exactly who I was. We spent our honeymoon weekend exploring Seattle, visiting museums and walking through neighborhoods where we could imagine living someday. Jake surprised me with a small business plan he had been working on, outlining how we could start the marketing agency I had always dreamed about. He had researched startup costs, potential clients, and partnership structures that would let us work together while maintaining our individual strengths. But we both knew the real test would come when we returned to Portland and faced the aftermath of our decision. I had turned off my phone during the wedding weekend, but I knew my family would discover our absence quickly. Sunday dinner had always been mandatory, and my empty chair would raise immediate questions. David knew I had been struggling with the family pressure, and I worried he might accidentally reveal something about my plans. The discovery happened exactly as I predicted. David called me Sunday evening, confused about why I had missed dinner and whether I was okay. When I told him I had gotten married, he went silent for so long I thought the call had dropped. Then he started asking rapid-fire questions about where and when and whether I had lost my mind. He was excited for me, but also terrified about how our parents would react when they found out. The phone started ringing within an hour of my conversation with David. First, my mother calling with the kind of hysteria usually reserved for medical emergencies. She screamed about how I had destroyed the family's reputation and ruined any chance of reconciliation with the Rosettis. She accused me of being selfish and cruel, throwing away everything good in my life for a moment of rebellion that I would regret forever. My father's call was even worse because of how controlled his anger sounded. He told me I was no longer welcome in his house and no longer considered part of the family. He said I had made my choice, and now I would have to live with the consequences completely on my own. The finality in his voice was devastating, but it also confirmed that we had been right to elope. This reaction proved they would never have accepted Jake or respected my right to choose my own path. The extended family bombardment began immediately, with aunts and uncles calling to express their shock and disappointment. They used words like betrayal, disgrace, and embarrassment, making it clear that my marriage had somehow damaged their own reputations. Several cousins sent text messages describing how hurt and confused they felt, as if my personal decision was somehow an attack on them. Marco's family escalated the situation by threatening legal action for breach of agreement, even though no formal engagement had ever been established. Frank Rosetti called my father demanding compensation for the embarrassment and wasted money from the failed engagement party. Patricia started spreading rumors throughout the community about my mental health and moral character, suggesting that Jake had manipulated me into making irrational decisions. The community reaction was swift and harsh, with people I had known my entire life crossing the street to avoid me and refusing to make eye contact in public places. Our family's reputation in the local Italian-American community was damaged, and I knew my parents blamed me entirely for the social consequences they were facing. But instead of feeling defeated by their reactions, I decided to take control of the narrative completely. I spent hours choosing the perfect wedding photo to send to everyone who had been pressuring me to abandon Jake. The image showed us both radiating happiness, with Jake's arm around my waist and my hand displaying the simple gold band he had chosen. My smile was genuine and bright, completely different from any photo they had ever seen of me with Marco. I crafted a message to accompany the photo that was direct but not cruel. I married the man I love. This is what real happiness looks like. I sent it to the family group chat individual relatives who had been calling with criticism, and posted it publicly on social media with a caption about having the right to choose your own path in life. The response was immediate and explosive, but I felt empowered instead of intimidated. Jake stood behind me, completely telling me he was proud of my courage and excited to build our life together without the constant pressure to conform to someone else's expectations. We blocked the most aggressive family members to protect our mental health and focused on moving forward with our plans. The immediate aftermath of sending that wedding photo brought a mix of emotions that surprised me with their intensity. Relief dominated everything else, the kind of deep breath you take after holding it for months without realizing. But sadness wove through the relief grief for the family relationships I had lost and the support system that had suddenly disappeared. Jake held me while I cried, not trying to fix anything, but just letting me feel whatever came up. Some family members reached out privately within the first week, expressing support they had been afraid to voice publicly. My cousin Angela called to say she admired my courage and wished she had been brave enough to make similar choices in her own life. She had married her husband Tony because both families approved, but they had been struggling for years without the foundation of genuine love and compatibility that Jake and I shared. David surprised me by calling 3 days after the photo went out, admitting he was proud of me for standing up for what I believed in. He said watching the family drama had made him realize how much pressure he felt to live up to their expectations. And seeing me break free gave him permission to think about his own life differently. We started talking regularly, again, carefully avoiding topics that might get back to our parents, but maintaining the sibling connection that mattered to both of us. The professional impact was challenging, but manageable. Some clients at the marketing company treated me differently after word spread about the family conflict, but others respected my integrity and independence. My boss Sharon called me into her office to say she understood family pressure and admired employees who stayed true to their values. She offered me additional responsibilities and a raise, saying she wanted people on her team who could make difficult decisions under pressure. Jake and I threw ourselves into planning our future together, using the energy we had been spending on family drama to build something positive. We spent evenings researching business licenses, client acquisition strategies, and office spaces for the marketing agency we wanted to launch. Jake's technical skills complemented my creative vision perfectly, and we discovered we could work together without the personality conflicts that destroy many partnerships. We created new traditions to replace the family rituals I had lost, hosting monthly dinners for our close friends and celebrating holidays in ways that felt meaningful to us. Jessica became like a sister, supporting me through the difficult transition and helping me process the grief of losing my birth family while gaining a chosen family that truly understood me. Some extended family members maintained secret contact, sending occasional messages to let me know they were thinking of me and hoped things would eventually improve. My Aunt Rosa, my mother's sister, called every few weeks to check on my well-being and share news about family members who missed me but were afraid to reach out directly. These conversations gave me hope that reconciliation might be possible someday, even if it took years. Therapy became essential for processing the trauma of being rejected by my family and building confidence in the decisions I had made. Dr. Martinez, the counselor. Jake and I found helped me understand that healthy family love should not come with ultimatums and conditions. She taught me how to set boundaries that protected my mental health while leaving room for relationships to heal over time if family members chose to change their approach. The business we built together exceeded our wildest expectations. Within 6 months, we had 5 regular clients and a waiting list of small businesses wanting our help with marketing strategies. Jake's logical approach to project management balanced my creative chaos perfectly, and clients loved working with a team that combined technical expertise with artistic vision. We were able to quit our day jobs within a year and focus full-time on the agency. Our marriage grew stronger through every challenge, partly because we had chosen each other against significant opposition, and partly because we shared the same values about respect, support, and individual growth. Jake never tried to control my decisions or change my personality, and I supported his goal of eventually developing his own software products. We became true partners in every sense, sharing both struggles and successes equally. Looking back 18 months later, I can see how much I have grown from making that difficult choice to prioritize my own happiness over family approval. The grief of losing my parents and extended family still surfaces sometimes, especially during holidays and major milestones, but it no longer dominates my emotional life. I have learned to find joy in the relationships that celebrate who I am instead of trying to mold me into someone else. The wedding photo I sent that day represents more than just a marriage announcement. It captures the exact moment I chose authenticity over comfort, love over obligation, and personal growth over family pressure. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is disappoint the people who want to make your choices for you, especially when those choices involve the most important decisions of your life. Real family, I have learned, means supporting each other's happiness, even when it looks different from what you expected or hoped for. Marriage should be based on mutual respect and shared values, not convenience or family connections. And most importantly, you cannot build a fulfilling life by trying to meet other people's expectations instead of honoring your own truth. Have you ever had to choose between family expectations and your own happiness? How did you find the courage to make the difficult but authentic choice? Share your story in the comments below because hearing from others who have faced similar struggles always helps us feel less alone. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real stories about standing up for yourself and choosing love over fear. Share this with someone who might need encouragement to make their own brave choices. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I hope it inspires you to trust yourself when facing your own difficult decisions. Remember, you deserve relationships that celebrate who you are, not ones that try to change you into someone else's vision of perfect.